Yes. Yeah, recording. Sorry. Those who have already seen the extra outtake, I hope you all appreciate that. But hello, welcome to Downstage with Bryan and Hayden. Uh, I am always Bryan M. Davis. I was about to say across from me, but well, technically speaking, he is across from me, so he's a camera across from me. My partner in crime, Hayden Lumus. Hayden, how was your week?
Oh, it was good. Actually, because as some of you know, we didn't record an episode last week because we took that off because of
Oh, she's back.
What is up with you? What is up with you today, Sophie? So it's like I heard it, I knew it was coming over, and I'm like, okay. Let's just how about you tell everyone your weekend first, and then we'll get to me.
All right, so my week was kind of blasé. I've been having a lot of trouble with writing and stuff like that too, but I've been working it out. Monday was just not the best of days for me. But over the weekend, like you, I saw the Batman, and I have the same feelings as you do, probably with the Batman. But you got to see it first because the Batman had a fan screening that you kind of went to, it was like you only gave me like one spoiler before I went to see the movie. It's like you kind of like mentioned it was like a true cape and cowl detective movie or something like that, and I was just like, yeah, I was just like, no, I was like, no spoilers, man. I just want to go into it like.
I mean, I wouldn't even call that a spoiler. I would just say that's just going off of what already we've been seeing from the trailers anyway.
Yeah.
And what the filmmakers and actors themselves have said in interviews about the movie.
Yeah, but it's definitely it was definitely an experience for me. So I haven't had that type of experience to a comic film in like in a while. Like Avengers Endgame, that wasn't an experience for me. That was like the closing chapter to a book that I'm trying to finish, and I've been reading it all summer. The Batman was an experience for me because it was like the first. I mean, one of the few movies that actually felt like a experience, just going to the theater, sitting in the theater, watching the movie, and then coming out of the theater going, oh, "Wow, that was a movie that I felt to my core, to my soul." But yeah, I enjoyed the movie very greatly. The only problem I have, the only gripes I have is that there was a lot of whispering in that movie. So, I mean, I'm fine with whispering, but like 9 times out of 10, I'm just like, wait, what? Come again? Damn, it's like they should really start speaking more loudly. I'm just kind of glad that when Paul Dano decides to ham it up as the Riddler, I'm just like, oh, thank you. Finally, someone who understands the assignment and who actually doesn't whisper.
I mean, I think you must have had a bad theater because, like, I heard everything perfectly fine.
I mean, I went to a Regal, so it was like a Regal experience. What?
I mean, Regals are kind of, well, the Regals I've been to down here are never the best. So that's why I'm kind of like, oh, that's got to be it.
I mean, it was pretty loud for the most part, but I mean, yeah, I might go and see it again this weekend. I might not. I might just wait until it becomes on HBO Max and watch it from there because I mean, going inside a Regal theater and just like almost like laying down on the the recliner seats, I'm just like, yeah, I might not get up.
It's like you just end up falling asleep by the end of the movie because you're just like, well, I'm already lying down.
Yep. But And also, it also reclines too, so that's even funner. So, but yeah, Hayden, yeah, how was your week aside from with the Batman, and also we do the weekly readings for his I was about to say podcast, his show, Kinetic.
Well, yeah. So aside from that, it's been pretty chill for the most part. And actually, I just want to quickly say what you're talking about with writing too, because like there've definitely been times where like I just won't have the like mental headspace to just put my fingers to the keyboard and write something down. And it's like, and that's okay. Sometimes you have to kind of just like take a break, kind of take a little bit of space from it, because if you try to create when you're not in that headspace, you're just not actually going to get anywhere productive. So then it's like you just come back to it when you are in a better mindset.
Yeah, and a lot of it that I do is I write with my friends, and my friends are going through a lot of like emotions with their own mental health, and I'm just like, I just can't write with my friend. I just can't seem to write if I'm not writing with my friends, and I am writing with my friends. Like that's when a lot of the creativity. There we go. Just comes like pouring out and stuff like that too. And yeah, it definitely felt like, aside from the Batman, like this whole week has just been very, like type of blasé type of like week for me. And
totally understand that. And yeah, like for me, it's been overall just a uneventful week. Aside from, of course, seeing the Batman at a fan first premiere screening on last Tuesday. I was going to see it on the opening weekend, and then unfortunately, stuff in life just unfortunately didn't really allow me the chance to do that again. But I am going to go and see it sometime next week with a friend, because we've been chatting about seeing it. So I am going to now get to see it twice, which was my plan to do originally in the first place. So yay!
It's now just not an opening weekend.
Yeah. Well, in a sense, I got to see it before opening weekend, and that's something I've never gotten to do with a movie. So that I think that's still
Oh yeah. But yeah.
And yeah. So speaking of Batman,
we might be talking spoilers. We might not be talking spoilers, but it is going to be both a spoiler-free but also a spoiler-ish discussion. Depending on certain characters. One. I was definitely blown away with Pattinson's Batman, because he definitely reminded me a lot of both Keaton, Kilmer, and a little bit of Bale in his both Bruce Wayne-ness and Batman-ness. Well, in his Batman-ness is like a whole different beast on itself. But when he's playing Bruce Wayne, he was just like a mixture of Keaton, Bale, and Kilmer for me. And Kilmer's Bruce Wayne was like really a public figure, and when Bruce has to be a public figure in the movie, he's just like he doesn't want to accept that fact, and he has to really slowly accept that fact.
Yeah, it's like the movie shows what the toll of like him just being the Batman takes on him trying to also be Bruce Wayne, because that's also just been a great, kind of like I don't know if you call it dichotomy or just a great balance that he has to always try and find. That they kind of generally shown sometimes in the movie, sometimes they kind of do it more, but then I feel like this one actually is the best representation of where he's at now. He's in his second year of doing this. We see how truly obsessed he is with being the Batman. It's like you see in the trailers, like he just says he doesn't care what happens to him, because to him the mission, trying to save Gotham, stop all all the criminals and stuff like that, that is just so more important to him, that even when he is Bruce Wayne, it perfectly shows that to him Bruce Wayne feels like that is the mask. Like when they showed the funeral scene as like kind of like a promotional teaser or something, like something to that effect before the movie came out. It's like you can just looking at him, the way he's like kind of looking around, he doesn't look like Bruce Wayne. He looks like Batman having to wear a Bruce Wayne mask, because he doesn't because he doesn't see himself as Bruce Wayne anymore.
Yeah, he did, and it was like,
and that's
you just feel that like I just can't fit in, like that nature that Keaton has, because Keaton's Batman. I mean, Keaton's Bruce. It's like he can fit in, but he just can't really fit in with the normality of fitting in with other elitists and stuff like that too. And there's a great beat where it's like he's the mayor. Well, not the mayor, but the mayor. The woman running for mayor. She hunts him down. Like hunts him down.
No, actually, not even. She literally just walks up to him while they're at a funnel for the mayor. For like, it's like,
just be a great time as I can. Can you endorse my, my and I'm just like, there's a time and place, lady, for all of this, and.
But then also, to be fair, it's like literally as she says, "I've been trying to find you, dude. This is literally the first time you've actually been out in public somewhere."
Yeah, but
they always say you're unavailable.
Yeah, I was like, and I like the little notion of Bruce really unable to go to these meetings, so they have to bring the meetings to him.
And this is so great too. It's like even when they bring the meetings to him, we never see the meeting in the first place because he's too obsessed with being Batman anyway. It's like, did the meeting even happen? Or did he just bail on another meeting? And I don't even think that's much of a spoiler, to be honest. I think it should honestly just be expected at this point.
I mean, there is probably going to be deleted scenes in the Batman, or maybe an extended cut that's like maybe 5 hours long, and you just probably see like those extended meetings where it's just like he's probably in the meeting, but he's just like
looking out a window, zoned out.
Or like Bale isn't just like sleeping. It was like,
no, honestly, actually, I think it would be something more like he's just looking out at the city of Gotham, because that's his Batman side, just wanting to just like jump out that window and just like go fight some crimes. Because like he would maybe it'd be like he's in a meeting, he's trying to blend in, he hears a siren, and then the camera follows him as he kind of turns, and then we kind of get this slow zoom as he just kind of just starts looking out the window. Camera slowly zooming out onto the the skyline of Gotham, and then eventually he's like, "Huh? Oh, what this meeting? Oh, yeah."
Yeah, I could definitely see that, especially because they're like, I love the idea of this movie really treating the quality of being Bruce Wayne and Batman, where past movies have failed. Past movies have failed the idea of Batman and Bruce Wayne being the same person, but not many movies have done Batman essentially wearing Bruce Wayne's face as a mask.
Yeah,
like
because like in a way you do kind of get that with Keaton, but at the same time it doesn't feel like there's something at risk when he's trying to be one over the other. Yeah, because it's like the two movies Keaton is in. It just feels like it doesn't matter that like his Bruce is essentially a shut-in, because no one seems to really call him out on it. It just seems to have no difference. And then you take Christian Bale's take on it, where Christopher Nolan clearly was more interested in Bruce Wayne than Batman, because even when we see Batman, it never actually felt like Batman. It felt just like Bruce Wayne wearing the mask, instead of the idea that Bruce Wayne himself is the mask, and it's the Batman who has become this real true self that he actually sees himself as. Yeah. And really wants to be.
And with Schumacher, it's like he kind of like almost balances us out with does
Schumacher even know what he wanted in the first place with it? Like,
actually, yeah, I think he did. It's just that he had a lot of interference with executive things, wanting it to be more of a toy-friendly thing, and he kind of like had to do it. But if you watch Forever, you kind of notice that there are like bits and pieces of Bruce Wayne being a tortured person, and of course, you can't really tell because
But that's the thing, though. It's like that's kind of something that has to come with the character already, anyway. Yeah. Just because you're showing he's a tortured character, we already have that established. Because if this is supposed to take place, say, after Batman Returns, that's already two movies where we're already see that this is a tortured guy. We already know he's a tortured guy.
Yeah.
So just because just because you understand this as well, that doesn't mean great for you. It means no, you understood that, yeah, this just is who the character is. So you're just maintaining the consistency of what the character is supposed to be anyway.
Yeah. But I think, I think this is like the first film that really does uh, handle the duality of being both Bruce Wayne and Batman at the same time, where you kind of see Bruce wanting just to be Batman all the time, and Alfred having to call out his bullshit and just saying, hey, there's a time and place to be Batman, but there's also a time and place to be Bruce Wayne. And right now, the city needs Bruce Wayne because there's a lot more things happening in the city that Batman can't solve as Batman, but Bruce Wayne can solve as being Bruce Wayne.
Exactly, and his choice to be Batman and to let his Bruce Wayne just hang on the sidelines for so long, like, hopefully I'm not spoiling too much, but let's just say after everything is said and done in the movie, and because Robert Pattinson signed a deal to do like 2 more movies, so it's clearly going to do a trilogy. Like, it's very obviously going to do a trilogy with how successful this movie is. So it's very clear that like they're already kind of setting up that like where they're going to go with the next one, that he's really going to now have to reckon with the fact that like he has spent too much time being Batman, and he now has to find a way to balance out being Bruce Wayne in the public while also trying to be Batman, because both are needed. He can't just be one over the other.
Which actually is a great thing, because you kind of noticed it in the end. Well, I wouldn't say in the ending, but you kind of noticed it. Well, yeah, what you just said with the ending. But I wouldn't be surprised if in the second movie, they do give Bruce Wayne like the love interest, where is like, will she find out that he is the Batman, and will it carry over where it's like previous movies where the female lead kind of like learns about him being the Batman, and then the next movie she's already gone. She's like, Vicky Vale, who's that? Well, you're the one who led Vicky Vale into the Batcave. So it's like, they kind of like, it definitely gives the impression that Matt Reeves knows where to go with next in the character, and he knows how to handle the next portion of what I was going to say, which is essentially the villain. I never actually seen. I mean, I've seen the Riddler, right? I've seen it. We all seen the Riddler before.
We've all seen that one particular version of the Riddler for sure.
Yeah, but there's also the Riddler from the Arkham games. There's also Riddler from Gotham. There's also Riddler from the cartoon. Riddler from the TV show from the 60s, where it's just like. And as I'm watching the movie, it's like, Reeves really understands how to give depth to the Riddler, or just the villain in general, because I don't know if this is a spoiler, but I mean, Carmine Falcone is in the movie, so you kind of like know, if you know the comics, you kind of know that he is another bad guy. So it's fun to watch a movie that gives both depth to both the main villain and sort of like a side villain at the same time, where it's just like, the Penguin, the Penguin's a hero, but he's not really a villain. I mean, he's not like a big villain per se. He's sort of like
he's still kind of like he's still working up to being a big villain.
Yeah, but he's also like I was about to say middle management for. Well, yeah, he is.
He kind of is in a way, yeah.
Yeah, he is middle management for Falcone, but Falcone is more treated as more like a legitimate villain in this movie compared to, say, Batman Begins, where he is just like this almost one-noted mobster who owns essentially the slums of Gotham or whatever, and it's just like compared.
And then it's like, oh well, okay, now we're done with him. Moving on.
Yeah, compared to say, compared to say Jack Palance in the first Batman movie, where Carl Grissom was really the same, like, one-noted. Oh, Carl Grissom, he owns this part of, he controls Gotham from this point of thing, and it's like, and of course, like the same thing with the Penguin and Joker, where it's just like, oh, the Joker, Jack Napier, he just happens to be middle management for
like this, this notorious crime boss person.
Yeah, but in this movie, you actually feel that Falcone really does have his hand on Gotham, and his hand is really on the heartbeat of Gotham. So
Oh yeah.
it's like legitimately terrifying. And when I heard John, you know, Turturro playing it, like, oh, John Turturro as Carmine Falcone, I'm like, yeah, it'll probably be well with the character. But the moment I saw him on the screen, I'm like, oh wow, this guy's great. This guy gets it. Like he actually gets it.
He does. And honestly, it was so amazing seeing him because it's like what the last things I honestly do remember seeing him in were those Transformers movies.
Yeah.
And it's such a night and day difference in
Oh
terms of like his
God, yeah.
acting performance. And it's amazing to see that.
People forget that John Turturro is an amazing actor, a exceptional actor, but when he's like when he gets regated to roles like Transformers or the comedic character, something like that, and he's kind of like really plays off the comedic, like his comedic nature. You kind of like forget, oh, like you kind of forget like this guy could actually seriously act. You know,
And funny enough, it's like you're saying his comedic nature. He actually knows how to use it perfectly well in this movie, while still also making himself come off as this guy who isn't really afraid of anyone because he knows he is in control, so he can do what he wants. Like funny enough, like we were saying earlier with the whole like Bruce Wayne Batman thing,
yeah,
he is like that public face who doesn't have to worry about anything because he knows his secrets are essentially under lock and key protected.
yeah, and it kind of goes right into sort of like the other two Batman villains in this. The other two Batman villains, with Riddler, like the Riddler, I feel was very fleshed out. Where it's just like it really does feel like if the Riddler was around today, he would be sort of portrayed as sort of like a terrorist with some following, but at the same time, he would also bring upon his like wicked intellect into the frame of things. Like if he is punishing people for their sins or what have you, of course, Arkham games kind of like made him into like a very Jigsaw-esque type of killer, which has been around for the Riddler in terms of, I think probably since 2000 or so, or at least since 2000, where he he started to put traps into his like riddles and stuff like that too. Whereas it's like, oh, Batman, like he brings out some riddle, and at the same time, there's like a death trap that's like where the walls just start closing in. It's like answer this riddle before the time runs out, blah, and then it runs away.
Yeah, and interesting too is like you're saying that because like in the three main Arkham games, like Asylum, City, and Night, all of his riddles are all to basically just like try to prove to himself essentially, and also just everyone else that he is the smartest person. But then go back and play Arkham Origins, and the way he acts there is actually similar in a lot of ways to what we see in this movie because he is trying to say like, oh well, look, I'm just uprooting all this corruption stuff, and that was actually something I love seeing in this movie because like Arkham Origins is year 2, this is year 2, and I'm watching that movie and I'm seeing so many parallels from Arkham Origins in this movie in such a fantastic way.
Yeah, and it definitely feels like, hey, there is a lot of Arkham games in this. Like, if you want to see the Arkham Batman fight, you watch essentially Ben Affleck's Batman. Specifically, probably the only scene that really does show that is the warehouse scene. But if you want to see the Arkham Batman do his detective shit, you watch the Batman, because that's how I felt like watching this movie. Like I half expected to go like, all right, detective mode activated and all that stuff, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, this does feel like that. But yeah,
and you can see they're kind of building up that whole detective vision thing because like, I won't spoil too much, but like they pulled something from the New 52 comics that I absolutely loved that they introduced as one of his bat gadgets. Because the way they show it too in the beginning, like 20-30 minutes, it's like this is actually perfect because he would use this gadget like this and also use it as a way to help himself improve as well.
Yeah. There is a great moment where Batman is at a crime scene, and it's basically the first crime scene, and he's looking around. He grabs one of the books, and and one of the cops goes, "Jim, you gotta let him do this." And Gordon, without missing a beat, going, "He's wearing gloves. He's wearing gloves."
He's wearing gloves, like exactly, like. But I love that too, because everyone is just so uncomfortable. All these cops are so uncomfortable around the Batman for like a myriad of reasons. Because one, they're corrupt; they don't want him hanging around. Or two, they're the ones who are the good cops, and they're like, this doesn't feel right, though. I mean, this isn't how we're supposed to do the job. I mean, is this okay?
Yeah, but in terms of the villains. And I'm not gonna, and I haven't spoken of the Penguin yet because like the Penguin kind of like is a villain, but he's sort of like in the supporting cast.
So he's like a villain, but he's also
a supporting.
He's still at that kind of henchman, but higher level henchman kind of villain.
I get to the supporting cast in a couple of seconds, especially in terms of what I liked. But in terms of the villains, the main two villains, Falcone and the Riddler, I felt was handled perfectly. Because it's like there's literally like the night and day of Falcone's actions, kind of like essentially birthing. And this isn't really a big spoiler, but it's basically the actions of a lot of things birthing the birth of the Riddler, and the Riddler basically essentially taking his plight into his form of action, into the main thing. Because, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about the Batman, but at the same time, it will go into a whole basically spoiler thing, and we got other things to talk about on this episode. So,
yeah, there are quick things I just want to quickly say, and then we can just move on. So I'll try to be very quick with this. So, opening scene, absolutely fantastic. It's what exactly should happen in a Batman movie. The runtime doesn't actually feel like 3 hours at all. I'm watching it because like it does a good job keeping you engaged. People complained about that. They should shut up because they went and watch Endgame, like no doubt. So shut up, people who are complaining about that, because you're hypocrites.
Titanic or Avatar or
Gone
with the Wind or Ben-Hur or anyway.
Yeah,
I'll just start just listing off random movies that have very long runtimes, longer than millennia.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, I think what really makes this movie stand out to me as one of the best live-action Batman movies is the fact that it actually feels like it is the most inspired from so many different great Batman comic book stories and utilized in such a fantastic way to tell a honestly compelling and topical story too.
Oh yes.
That we never have actually gotten to see for a Batman movie in such a long time for live action.
I mean, The Dark Knight Rises tries to do a topical thing, but at the same time, and this is what we were talking about before, is that, and this will go into sort of like the next thing where I may as well just start with the supporting cast. Like we really do need to talk about Zoe Kravitz's Selena Kyle Catwoman. Well, I'm sorry, she's just Selena Kyle. She's not really Catwoman or anything.
I mean, technically, I think she's credited as Catwoman because I think we all know she's Catwoman, so I think it's fine to call her Catwoman anyway. Also, I love that you caught on to my way to get you to segue to this.
Yes, thank you. But yeah, one of the biggest stories that came out during the Batman this past weekend was the fact that Zoe Kravitz, she mentioned that she auditioned for maybe a role as Selena Kyle, or maybe as Selena Kyle's friend, or at least some role in The Dark Knight Rises. But casting said that she was too "quote unquote" urban for the movie. And we were right before we started recording, we actually had this discussion. It's like, you know, Nolan is a amazing, masterful director, but characterize, especially when it comes to women, he really can't really write women. He can't really write women, and when he does, and especially if it's a person of color, especially especially if it's a person of color in the cast, it's not really written in a way that's like really written memorably. Mm-hmm. Like you poured out the great point with Tenet, where John David Washington's character the protagonist, like literally is called the protagonist.
Yep. Like we watch the credits, that's that's what his name is, just protagonist.
And there's no real name, he's just basically a blank slate. I mean, it kind of works in the movie of Tenet, but then again, I haven't really watched Tenet at all.
But I mean, but that's the thing, though. Yeah, it could work for the movie, but at the same time, it does also bring to light Nolan's kind of problems in trying to write, certain characters that he clearly doesn't know how to write for.
Yeah, and
it's like also what I was saying too, because it's like his character is just that like bland, stale.
Yeah.
It's like basically it's your playable character in Skyrim where you have some dialogue choices, and depending on what you're doing in Skyrim, a lot of those choices are just very standard and basic. Yeah. With the only exception being whenever you do something for the Dark Brotherhood.
The only time I remember him actually writing a female character that actually felt memorable was probably maybe Murphy in, I was about to say Inception, Interstellar. Murphy, Interstellar, where I think it was probably because of the casting of, I forgot the child actress, but it was the casting of the child actress, and it was also Jessica Chastain as Murph, specifically the older Murph. And I forgot who played the older actress for Murph, but it was like, that's like the only character I remember outside of any other movies where it wasn't like a Batman movie where he written a very memorable woman character, like in. But yeah,
and also funny enough you bring that up too, because what is that character's objective through the entirety of that movie? It all comes back to the dad.
Yeah.
Which is also the white male protagonist character.
Yeah. And yeah, like I honestly do agree that, there is a problem with Nolan's way of writing characters. 9 times out of 10, if you watch a Christopher Nolan movie, there's probably no black or female characters. It is mostly just a white character, or if there is a female character in the thing, they usually either are so minute in terms of in the writing, where it's just like you could have literally just like flicked the character away and you probably wouldn't even notice, the character wasn't even gone. Where it's like I remember when The Prestige came out, there was this whole big thing where, oh man, it's Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Scarlett Johansson, David Bowie. And I'm like, wait, Scarlett Johansson's in the movie? Oh man, it's like, I can't wait to see.
And Jessica Alba.
No, that was another movie.
No, because I think I remember there was like Christian Bale's character, there's like 2 women in his life, because, spoiler for Prestige, one of the Christian Bale twins was sleeping with one woman, and then the other one was married to another woman. And because of the fact that they're twins, there's kind of this whole like, wait, is he cheating on his wife or what? What's going on? I think it was Jessica Alba.
No.
Okay, I gotta look this up. It's gonna bug me if I don't know.
Who you're thinking of is The Illusionist with Edward Norton and Jessica Biel. You're probably thinking The Illusionist because both movies actually came out around the same time. And both movies happen to deal with with magicians being magicians being like quote unquote being in trouble with the law and whatnot.
Okay.
Illusionist is a severely underrated movie, by the way. But anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think
I remember when The Prestige was coming out. I was like, oh, Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Michael Caine, David Bowie, Scarlett Johansson. I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to see what they have with Scarlett Johansson. And she's kind of like negated to the sideline as basically the female helper. And I'm literally trying to remember if she had any big moments in the thing. And like I kind of remember a couple of big moments, but it wasn't really that big. Where it's just like she might have been one of the. I remember her and Hugh Jackman having like some sort of chemistry in the movie, some sort of romance, but I don't remember if there was anything big from that thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Kravitz's comments, right, really does put a notion of, oh, there's definitely problems with Christopher Nolan, at least in Christopher Nolan writing essentially women characters or just writing characters in general, where it doesn't feel like they actually are like it literally just said before, where it's like they actually do feel like they're kind of like pre-programmed characters that really do fill the role of what I'm doing in the story.
Exactly. It's like, okay, now you're here, so now I can actually find a way to move the plot to get to the next point so we can keep everything moving.
But yeah, going into Kravitz's Sleeping Hollow, though, now that we talked about the problem of Christopher Nolan with stuff and brought that out first, Kravitz as Sleeping Hollow was amazing. The moment
absolutely,
the moment she out on screen, I'm like, I was like, who is this woman? It's like it's literally like the meme of Rosa from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where she goes, I only had blank for a day and a half, but if anybody tries to take it, I'll kill her, or kill them, and kill myself. It's not like that, but it's like Kravitz's Selena Collins is like, she actually felt like someone who has been in the Gotham slums and been slumming in the Gotham slums for like maybe for a better part of her life, and it definitely felt like she understood the character to a point where I wasn't even worried about how they were portraying her in a fight. It was like I noticed like it was like even I know it's like, oh, even though Catwoman has claws in the comics, like they have her nails like followed up to a certain way where it does actually feel like, oh, she has like nails that are just like like claws.
Like she could actually scratch someone pretty good with it.
Yeah, and I'm just like, wow. But from a writing standpoint, she actually did feel like Selena Kyle, like ripped from the comics. Whereas
exactly,
and that's really hard to do because the last time we had Selena Kyle on screen was Anne Hathaway. And again, it goes back to Nolan and writing female characters, and
then also just to kind of like,
I can't really say that Selena Kyle and Dark Knight Rises wasn't proactive. She is proactive, but
she doesn't also feel like Catwoman too. I'm watching the film, and it just feels like just another character for the sake of having a character kind of advance the plot forward instead of her actually being Catwoman with her own objectives.
I mean, and they play her more like a femme fatale anyway. So I mean, and Catwoman is a femme fatale, but that's really not part of her character. Like
that's just one facet, because she is a much more nuanced character. And if you have someone who knows how to flesh it out, boom, you're gonna get this amazing character, which we got with Matt Reeves as the Batman.
Yeah,
and we got to see that through Zoe Kravitz, who was honestly perfect for this role because she does embody that character perfectly well, and she delivers all of that nuance.
Yeah, that's like the moment I read it is like, oh, I really hope it's not like portrayed like Catwoman in Dark Knight Rises, where they kind of play her off as like a femme fatale type of thing, and she's just starting as a thief and stuff like that too, where it's just like, but anyway,
and honestly, like, because we've been comparing Batman to all the other Batmen, and we definitely have to address this particular elf in the room kind of thing. So, everyone's going to compare Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman to Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. Personally, I think, because those comparisons have been made before, and I think it's incredibly an unfair kind of comparison, because it's also for the same reasons why I don't like comparing Robert Pattinson's Batman to some of the other Batmen, because they don't actually feel like the character we know from the comics. Because it's like Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, yes, I get it, everyone reveres her, but it's a very Tim Burton character, and it's not actually because I'm watching that movie and I'm like, this doesn't feel like Catwoman. It feels like a Tim Burtonized version who also has powers for some reason and is also fucking insane. Pardon my French, but.
Well, if we actually watch Catwoman, the 2004 movie, we actually get an explanation why she has powers.
But again, but she's never had powers before in the comics. This is the point. And again, another Catwoman movie that doesn't do the character justice as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, sadly.
So this is great to actually see a version of Catwoman on screen that is done justice, that is portrayed beautifully, as from what we've expected from what we've seen in the comics, and who embodies that character perfectly, to be honest.
If there is a Catwoman that actually does feel like,
and I'm just talking for live action. Animation's of course a different story.
Yeah, animation, like the only comparison I can make with Catwoman in this movie is basically the Catwoman in the animated series, where she actually does feel like sort of like the same character. But going more into the supporting cast, again, Penguin was amazing. Alfred was even amazing because when I heard Andy Serkis was going to be playing, Andy Serkis, is it Serkis or Circus? I think it's Serkis.
I just say Circus because it just looks like it when you
but when I heard he was playing Alfred, I was like, oh man. It was like, I really hope this isn't a wasted role. But he comes on the movie and he just carries the scenes he has with Pattinson, because he actually does feel like he's Alfred with
exactly.
Jeffrey Wright's. Can we just give it a little round of applause of not only Jeffrey Wright as Gordon, but also the year he has had in movies where he's like, or entertainment where he's just like, last year he was the Watcher, which was an amazing role to have. He closed out his role as Felix in No Time to Die. Then he has Jim Gordon, and I just kind of like,
and not to mention he's the standout of Westworld.
Oh, of course.
Like anyone who watches that show has consistently said he is one of the best parts of it.
I still need to watch that show too, and I love westerns, so. And I know it isn't a western show, and it's set in a backdrop of a western. I just haven't had time to watch it yet because I had so much time. I literally have so much movies I have to watch. I have to watch shows and movies. There we go. Shows, movies.
Yeah, it's just too much. Yeah, exactly. That's always the problem. There's always going to be so much stuff and then never enough time, usually.
And I have all this, and I'm slowly starting to get back to that now. And I'm slowly finishing The Bad Batch. And The Bad Batch is an amazing show. And I probably have to go and watch Rebels after this because I need to know. I feel like if I don't watch Rebels, I don't know who half of these characters feel like. But
it definitely gets better after the first season.
Yeah, Rebels or
Star Wars Rebels, yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, different kind of conversation. We're trying to roll along, but yeah.
Colin Farrell, fantastic. He's literally a show stealer every time he shows up on screen.
Whoa, check it easy! Like the moment he goes, like, "Whoa, take it easy."
Yeah.
The moment he said that, I'm just trying not to crack up, and then you could just tell he is like, he's just relishing just the time he has as the Penguin, because he's just like, my God, it's like he's like the character of the Penguin, Oz. He's just normally a guy.
Also that fact too, like you just said, Oz. It's the fact that he purposely tries to make sure everyone calls him Oz because he just clearly hates being called the Penguin.
Yeah, and it's like, character-wise, the Penguin has always just been like this very short, disfigured person, or disfigured person who just happens to have a head or some features like a penguin. But here, he has like the face of the character, right? But he just makes the character all by itself, and he just makes everything makes a lot of it just chef's kiss, just where he's just like, you just feel like he's like, he still has the energy he played with Daredevil like like close to 30 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, like that. Oh yeah, Bullseye. Oh my god.
It's like you could tell, like whenever Colin Farrell was playing a villainous character, he's just gotta bring his A game. Just no matter what, even if the character is an anti-hero like Catwoman, like I forgot to mention, like Catwoman's a great anti-hero, but they really don't play the hell anti-hero like factor that much because she's still weighing her own options. She hasn't really crossed that line that Catwoman has in the past, where she does play that, like she does stroll along that line.
Well, no, well, they already kind of have that though, because it's like she is always a character who, like, yeah, she'll help out sometimes, but then at the end of the day, she is gonna go do her own thing.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of always been who her character more or less is. I mean, there have been some. I mean, of course, there's some stories where she does date Batman for a while, so she'll be around and more, helping out more. But generally, she is someone who is very independent, who doesn't need someone, to protect her. So she will go do her own thing.
And of course, I can't really talk much about another spoiler character because they're only on screen for like maybe a minute, but that minute really does feel like, oh, I really hope that character does come back as basically a random character that you just kind of see in the background.
Yeah.
That just gives off their like opinions and whatnot, rather than just being a because if that character does come onto screen, they're going to be a soul stealer, right? But
yeah,
just there for like maybe a minute or two, just to give their opinions on, like, say, the current events, on like saying, oh yeah, Mr. Freeze is attacking Gotham, and Batman has to go and talk to this person yet again. Have that character just appear on that thing as sort of like as a cameo, but still treat it as sort of like as a cameo where it is a memorable cameo. But
like he could be the one person who knows everything going on in Arkham.
Yeah.
So Batman will go to him, but he purposely doesn't actually say anything to anyone else about it because he knows that if he does, then Batman will just go to them. Because I know he wants Batman's attention for himself, kind of thing.
But I do hope.
I can literally imagine just a great line where you're saying Mr. Freeze too, being like, "What's wrong? Are you getting the cold shoulder?"
But
or just something to that effect.
But I do hope they do keep that character as a background related character, treat it more along cameo round, because the character itself, it will be a soul stealer, but at the same time, you don't want to have that character be the one that essentially negates the spotlight off the other characters, because if you have, like, say, that character, Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy,
or Bane, even.
Bane. Which of those four characters would be more memorable? It will be that character. So yeah, I can't really talk more about their character. Other people might know who we're talking about, but
yeah.
I mean, it's comics, so you kind of figure out.
I mean, you watch that scene
between the lines, people.
Yeah, you watch that scene, you do kind of get the idea pretty clear what they're going to be going for with that. And like you're saying too, like I do hope they kind of keep him as a cameo, especially for the second movie.
Yeah.
But maybe slowly kind of build him in just a little more than just like a one scene character for the second movie. And then for the third movie, I feel like that could be a great way to kind of bring us this full-fledged character. Yeah. Like really put him into the spotlight for that third movie.
And speaking of spotlight, let's talk about theater.
I'm just giving you these great segues today.
Yes, it's a great way to. I mean, it's not a spotlight in theater. They call it a special. Yeah, it's called a special. I mean, it's not necessarily a spotlight.
I mean, technically, they kind of it's something that has just been generally by the public referred to as the spotlight anyway. So,
but in theater terms, it's called a special. But anyway, so yeah, we were all done with Batman. I'm sorry for 50 minutes of just talking about Batman stuff, or 45 minutes of it. But yeah, we just need to talk about Batman.
It's a great movie. Go see it on an IMAX screen. You have to see it on the best screen possible to really appreciate the beautiful cinematography.
Hayden, for the past couple of months or so, has been putting backgrounds of this Batman related background. So now that March is done, I just hope that he goes into a normal background again and actually does this show normally. I don't have Oh, wait. Anyway, so yeah, theater.
So yeah, I'll change it for next week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
He says, sarcastically. No. But yeah, theater-wise, we got a couple of theater news coming out in both Broadway. For starters, starting next month, there is a big casting news playing Roxy Hart on the musical Chicago. Ooh. The musical Chicago, which is still going around like closest, what was it, 95? So almost 30 years on Broadway. I'm at, well, 95, maybe it came up, it may have been on 90, maybe either 96 or 97, I can't remember. But Pamela Anderson is coming to Broadway to play Roxy Hart. I don't know. At first, when I read it yesterday, I thought someone was just making fun of the fact that in the next story I'll talk about is that Daniel Radcliffe is going going off Broadway to perform Merry as We Go Along. But when I read that, I was like, oh, Radcliffe is going to be off Broadway. That's fun. But someone was joking that, oh, Pamela Anderson is doing Chicago. I was like, I actually thought someone was actually joking about that. But sure enough, she actually is going to be on Chicago starting next month in a dream role of hers to play Roxy Hart. No shade about that, but it's if you play a dream role, that's fun. If I had a singing talent, I would love to be on Broadway to playing someone on Phantom of the Opera. Not as Phantom, but maybe as Phantom Raoul or someone on Phantom of the Opera. But yeah, if you have a dream role, and you do want to do that, do like chase after that dream. But again, this is also Pamela Anderson, and Pamela Anderson has been, recently in the news with both a Hulu miniseries that documented both her and Tommy Lee's, crazy relationship back in the 90s, as well as their, sex tape. But also the fact that she was trying, I think she's also suing Hulu for basically making that show without her stamp of approval. But it's definitely, I mean, in terms of Chicago, it does actually feel kind of casting-wise pretty good casting. In terms of what the character Roxy Hart is. Roxy Hart, if I remember correctly, is a very almost like very Valley Girl-esque type of role where she doesn't feel like she's more known for her beauty than she is for her brain. So if you catch the actress who is known more about her beauty and her looks compared to anything else, you get that sensation of, okay, they casted well with that. But the only thing I don't know how they got to do is I never actually seen or actually heard her sing before. And Roxy Hart is she's a singing part, so.
And I mean, after all, it's a musical, and clearly it's a big role in the musical since it's her dream role. So yeah, I would imagine.
But in terms of I'm kind of confused on. I mean, obviously, this is obviously stunt casting, and stunt casting has been around in a long time in terms of both film, TV, theater, especially. But I'm curious to see how she does, but at the same time, I'm just curious to see how well she does with this role. Specifically, it is Chicago, and the last time I remember Chicago being in the headlines was probably maybe 10, 15 years ago when. Oh no, that was Cabaret. Sorry, another C musical. Musical with a C in its name, so yeah. But yeah, Hayden, what do you think?
I mean, honestly, I'm not much of a musical person, so I can't have much to offer. But I did see something floating around on social media where apparently there was actually another actress who was supposed to play that role of Roxy, but essentially got booted, so they could get Pamela Anderson to play that role instead.
Oh, really?
And all I'm thinking is clearly they did this because Pamela Anderson is a big name actress.
Yeah.
And the person they originally had, I believe, wasn't, not like wasn't at the same level Pamela Anderson is. So, and problem is, I tried to quickly find an article on it, but I haven't been able to find it again since I forgot to save it or save the post that was shared about it. So it is one of those things sort of like it does feel like they great, it's a dream role, pursue your dream roles, get them if you can, but at the same time it does feel like this was a decision made by I don't know if it was the theater or whoever was in charge for the show, for the casting, whatever, was like, we're gonna go with this person because we need a big name, because it's, theaters have been just getting wrecked because of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
For the past 2 years. So I feel like this is also their way of being like, okay, we get this big name actress to lead this show, and that's going to help also bring people in seats because they're going to want to see this actress because it's a big name.
Oh, yeah. And
so I feel like that's also I feel like that's also playing a factor into Pamela Anderson getting that role. That's just my hot take on it.
Yeah, honestly, and Chicago is a long-running theater thing, and she's only going to be on Broadway for maybe, I think she said it was from April 12th to at least July 3rd. No, not July, June 3rd or 2nd, around that area. So she's only going to be on Broadway for at least, a month and a half, especially with performances wise. And she's only going to be and they're probably not going to, I mean, they are probably going to be using it as much as she could, probably maybe towards the weekends. So, especially, I don't know if she'll probably be doing a matinee show, it's but if it's a role, but anyway, yeah, it definitely feels like I'm more along the lines of a curious thing to see how well she does, because if she does well, great for her. But but I do agree that, yeah, obviously theaters they actually do need to get people back into just get back into people seeing shows. And I'm an usher, right? I work as an usher, and a lot of the places I've been to have been selling out regularly. So you could tell people want to go back to theater, theater environments. Live performances really are the heart and soul of New York entertainment. Especially if it's a concert, right? But yeah, but on Broadway, it's definitely one of those things where it's just it's Broadway. How well does things work on Broadway without being criticized and scrutinized? There we go. I think that's what my point was going to be. But yeah, it definitely feels like it's probably going to be maybe a hit or miss performance, but I'm actually just quite curious to see how well she does, or how strong she comes off with both singing and dancing, and just overall her performances thing. Because as you said, or as we pointed out, Roxy Hart is the main character. She sings, she dances, and that's essentially a main character position for an entire performance. Outside of the fact that when if she's off stage, getting if she's not off stage, not on stage or what have you. But yeah, going into our next story, that in terms of theater, the New York Theater Workshop, which famously did Rent and other great plays over the years, is doing a rendition, not rendition, a revival of Merrily We Go Around. I know it's a little tongue-tied of a word there. It's not a musical, starring with Daniel Radcliffe. And I was actually more surprised to see that, because the last time I heard Daniel Radcliffe was on Broadway was years ago, where he basically did things with a horse. So it's the less said about that, the better. But
Yeah, there's someone who's had an interesting career since Harry Potter.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like
there was like one movie he did where he literally, the whole premise of it was he got like two pistols like taped to his hands, like or nailed into his hands almost too.
there's another movie where he literally played a dead body with Paul Dano, who played the Joker in the Batman. Just to again to wrap it up.
Paul Dano didn't play Joker in the Batman.
I mean, not the Joker.
Riddler.
Riddler. Oh, sorry, Joker, Riddler. All these. There's a lot of Batman characters in, not in the movie, but in the Batman comics that have the in their name. So the Batman, the Joker, the Killer Moth, the Riddler, the Trigger twins, the Valensky brothers. See what I mean? But yeah, Daniel Radcliffe plays a dead body in a movie where he did with Paul Dano, where he literally just plays a dead body. And although it's like we're kind of like not sure if he is a dead body, if he's like Paul Dano's mind is just breaking because he's like trapped on an island. And even before that, a couple of years before that, Radcliffe plays a great turn as being a demon in a movie called Horns, where in the movie he basically has like two horns coming out of his whole head, and as the movie is rolling around, his horns just get more and more demonic. He's becoming more and more demonic as himself, and there's a great like physical makeup towards the end where he actually does feel like, oh, this, that's less Daniel Radcliffe, and that's more like this guy's really embodying himself in a more physical role underneath makeup. And of course, Radcliffe did a great movie with Adam Driver, like, what was that? I think almost 10 years ago, where if people were always wondering where this sound clip or cue came from, where Adam Driver goes, I just had sex, I'm about to eat nachos, this is the greatest day of my life. It comes from that movie with him, and Daniel Radcliffe before was talking about having a relationship with Driver's character's sister. So yes, from a Harry Potter post standpoint, Radcliffe has range. Like he doesn't really care. Like, I mean, he cares, but he doesn't really care like what type of role he's playing, as long as he's having fun. Because
exactly.
I don't think he wants to be like that type of actor who will just play the same role over and over and over until typecasting doesn't really want him anymore, and and they're basically just living off residual checks. I'm just surprised that and this is another thing where it's just like we roll around. But anyway, the music, it's a musical, so I'm curious to see how well he does as a singer, because I don't think I've heard him sing at all in one of these movies or sing at all. So it definitely feels like it's a outside the box type of situation, or I mean outside the box acting situation where he's not going to be in his comfort zone, but he's still in theater. So yeah. So as someone who has been watching his career, like, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's just kind of like you said, it's like he doesn't care what the role is because it just wants to like play these roles because he knows he's going to have fun with them. And like you said, it's clear he doesn't want to just be, oh, I'm just the Harry Potter guy for, the rest of his life. So yeah, just like, good on him. That's all I really, because I don't know the musical and I don't know if he can sing or not, so I don't have much to really offer on that.
Well, the New York Workshop Theater is a good place. I've been there. Well, I haven't been there, but I passed by it a few times when I was in the Lower East Side, because I used to do a couple of performances as an usher for La Mamba, and La Mamba, like, literally is right across from where the New York Theater Workshop is. Among other places as too, in terms of the Lower East Side, and was a Lower East Village, one of the two. when it comes to New York terms, when you say Lower East Side, it's like there's like two terms. There's like the Lower West Side and Lower East Side, and Lower East Side, as well as the Lower West Side, has like a lot of other neighborhoods. So I think it's probably the East Village or one of those two. But by this point, it's like it all just comes. Honestly, after all this time, it all just comes apart as being essentially the same neighborhood for me. I'm sorry, as a lifelong New Yorker, if I'm down in Lower Manhattan, and if I'm along Lower East Manhattan, I'm just like, yeah, it's Lower Manhattan. I know where to go. Yeah,
yeah, like it's just downtown. It's all downtown.
Yeah, it's all downtown.
It's all just one big downtown.
Yeah, it's Lower West Side for me, Lower East Side for me, depending on where I'm at. But yeah, New York Workshop Theater, amazing place, especially if you're trying to be like because they have programs for if you want to be they have programs if you want to be like a writer, director, that sort of thing. They have programs where you can actually submit and actually be like a part of that program and see how well they could do as a trainee, essentially. But yeah, but to end this episode with some actually pretty great news is that James Earl Jones has had a theater renamed in his honor. So formerly the Court Theater, which is, I believe, on Broadway and between 6th and Broadway, I believe, 6th and Broadway, and I believe 48th Street or 47th Street, around that area.
Yeah, 48th Street.
Yeah, 48th Street, because once you're walking towards, because it's more closer towards like the pinnacle of what Times Square is, and then once you hit like 50th Street, that's basically Times Square. Like that's the end of Times Square. But between 54th Street, no, 45th Street and 50th Street, that's basically Times Square. Yeah, more or less.
Pretty much, yeah.
And yeah, the Court Theater, famous theater. It actually had been a place where James Earl Jones has, acted before, specifically in Fences, and I think I'm not sure if it was his Fences, but it was definitely a place where Fences was, performed. But he basically has a history with that place. And yeah, and I've been to that theater a few times, not as a guest, but as one of my former jobs had me staying outside for that theater to get people to go into that theater to get their tickets. But that theater itself, it looks pretty nice on the outside, and it may be in the middle of the block. Well, all theaters are in the middle of the block somewhere. It's not really
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it's not like the Winter Garden where it's like it's on the corner of someplace. Like the Winter Garden is like literally the only theater I know that isn't in the middle of a block. I mean, it is in the middle of a block, but it's actually on the outside of a block where it's like it's not between blocks. That's what I'm trying to say. A lot of theaters are in the middle between blocks. So yeah. I just can't wait to see what shows that they have in the future at the James Earl Jones Theater. Although someone was actually joking, I think it was on Reddit, where they kind of hoped that James Earl Jones would do like the opening announcements of like, please do not use your cell phone and all that stuff, but also just like kind of like say, please do not use your cell phone or I will fund you and force choke you. Like sort of like that. But yeah. Or do something related to the Lion King, even though it's not really the place where the Lion King is, but it is a Broadway, so Lion King. Anyway.
Well, I mean, I feel like Lion King themselves would probably ask them to do that if that was the case.
Yeah. But yeah, I honestly, it's honestly a great honor in his thing because James Earl Jones has been acting since the 1960s, or maybe the 50s, I think. But he's been around for many years.
Yeah, so like he's been acting for like I think half a century.
Yeah, and just to, it's like, and how many people do you know in your lifetime have gotten places like named after them? That's like, especially Billings itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can't really think of anybody offhand outside of like people being memorialized on like say streets.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like a theater that's already that's already been around for like say probably as long as he is, just renaming the theater to become the James Earl Jones Theater. So yeah, congratulations, James, for Mr. Jones for getting a theater named after you. So yeah, I know we kind of like rushed through a couple of those stories, but after talking about the Batman for like 50 minutes, like I was kind of like trying to like not to go more and more into the detail about that, but honestly, this summer, especially for Broadway, I honestly can't wait to see how Broadway does for the summer, because by the time June rolls around, that's when I feel like Broadway is gonna like reopen once, especially with the Tonys. Like once they do the Tonys and stuff like that too, it's like I feel like that's when a lot more of the craziness of Broadway is gonna like come out, and just like that's when that's when people could probably gotta say that's when people could say, oh, Broadway is back after a long time. This Broadway is finally back.
Yeah, definitely.
And on that note, I think after a 2-week hiatus, after a week hiatus, we're back, but we may have another week off. I'm not sure. Maybe not. I'm not sure. It depends on my schedule. I mean, the schedule in terms of actually performing my other show. So, as I say in the past, previously, I also do call time, which is my primarily thing, and I've been getting a couple of guests recently. So,
nice.
I'm trying to get these episodes of those, edited down and then released into the interweb. So yeah, Hayden, any last words?
Like I was saying before, go
like,
see the Batman on an IMAX screen. It is worth it, and have a great day, everyone.
I should have said I can't say any last words, final thoughts, parting words without sounding very like any last words. Like that's sort of like a villain.
It's like I just pull out a cigarette and be like, and then I say my last words. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Blindfold me.
No. But yeah, if you have the time to go see the Batman, please do. It's a great movie. If you have time, if you are in New York City, if you have time to go see a Broadway show, please go and support the arts. Just go and support the arts, and just please be well, be safe, be happy, and be well. Take care, everybody, and peace.